Hey guys, it's Menlo, and today I wanted to talk about my experience at MagicCon Las Vegas 2024. This was my first convention, so I watched several videos to get a feel for what to expect. The videos were helpful, however, many of them only touched on a couple of things and didn't evaluate the convention as a whole, despite providing excellent advice. Having now experienced a convention, I feel like there were things that I would have missed out on if I had not had a friend accompany me to the convention and show me the ropes. So this will be kind of a story to outline the experiences I had and what I learned from them. Because honestly, the whole first day probably would have been a disaster had I gone by myself. So this is going to be a video to help new attendees with things I wish I knew before the convention. Firstly, and probably the most important part of going to MagicCon, is purchasing tickets. The first email I received regarding MagicCon Las Vegas was in May. However, I didn't buy my tickets until August. This was a critical mistake. You see, apparently, a majority of people buy their tickets for the con and the ticketed events the moment they go on sale, which means that I got the slim pickings of what was left. And believe me, there really wasn't a lot left. Well, at least not relative to the amount of money I was prepared to spend. The base weekend ticket was $100, which is actually relatively cheap for what you get out of the ticket. Access through the front door was the minimum expectation I had for the weekend, but it actually came with some other goodies that you got just for showing up. A free lanyard to hold your badge, sure, it's not super extravagant, but it isn't nothing. 3 promotional cards. This year was 3 counterspells, one of which was foil extended art of Doctor Strange from Marvel, which has the low listing of $128 on TCG Player as of the recording. Though I think it's safe to say few people will buy it for that price, even though the art is beautiful. But there were actually some secret goodies you could get if you just participated with the event, as well as interacted with some of the vendors. But let's not jump too far ahead. The start of the convention for the weekend badge I bought began on Friday at 10 a.m., so we arrived at the building and proceeded through security. Now, according to the MagicCon website, the badges should have arrived in the mail. However, due to what I can only reasonably attribute to my own blunder, they were never received. So, into the queue to receive our badges we went. This line took probably about 45 minutes to an hour to get to the front, but with this fresh purple lanyard and badge, we made our way into... Oh wait, we have to activate our badge by downloading the MagicCon Vegas application on the App Store to input a generated code from the email receipt, so instead, we found a table in the side lobby and sat down. This took another 20-ish minutes, but after some fiddling with the application and dancing around forgotten passwords, we were ready. So, we made our way into the main hall where we were met with another queue. But on the positive, this one wasn't actually required, unless you wanted the festival counterspells I mentioned earlier, in which case you have to spend another 30 minutes in line. But fret not, our heroes of the story made it through, and finally, we were stifled by the insane amount of foot traffic all around the cool booths now occupied by the feet of many people's product-captured gazes and large bags. This includes myself, because I stopped at the luxury playstyle booth. This is where I got these beautiful tokens, which, while they were rather expensive, like $40 or $50 for 6, they are gold-plated metal tokens, and I had no idea I was going to like them this much. Fortunately, after this purchase, the people had dispersed and we made our way to the play area, where hundreds, if not thousands, of people were playing Magic. The sea of tables, empty and full, the chatter of everyone gabbing it up and meeting new people, it was so overwhelming. So, to sink into the vibe, my friend suggested we check out the Ultimate Guard booth, where I spotted my first set of popular YouTubers, Joey, Dana, and Matt from the EDHRecast. Unfortunately for me, I was stuck in line for one of the coolest secret goodies you could get from a vendor. You see, Ultimate Guard was offering a free personalized engraving on your Xenoskin deck box using a laser engraver if you bought a deck box. And this is how it turned out. It's amazing. The artwork is phenomenal. The texture is so smooth and comfortable to hold. In addition, I was actually very rough with this box. And let me tell you, it is so sturdy. With the personalized engraving, I wish I'd gotten 2. This line, however, lasted probably about 45 minutes, but from this line, the fourth popular YouTuber I witnessed, Krim, the Asian Avenger from MTG Goldfish. Now, I know that I didn't really meet them, but even from afar, it was still exciting and comforting to see that despite their popularity, there was a strong aura of humility and friendliness. After departing the line, we played some games and then made our way up to observe our first panel, The Foundations of Magic's Next Era, which we were admittedly late to, but it's okay. You aren't meant to see everything. If you're interested in watching that panel, here's a link. And it's also well worth the watch. Many amazing pieces of news come out during this video. And if you want to hear one of the coolest parts, skip to about 22 minutes in. Also, I'll link it in the description below so you can watch it after you're done watching this video. So, you're welcome. After this panel, we participated in a Chaos Commander event, which we found out was scheduled just after the beginning of Game Nights Live, which was another blunder I made because when I bought the tickets, I didn't know what or when the panels were. To be clear, it wasn't that the times weren't posted. It was more that I hadn't even considered that this was when they filmed Game Nights Live, so oops. The lesson here is mind the times of the panels you want to see live, and also I'll link the Game Nights Live video in the description as well for when you're done. So, about the event. Overall, it was a cool event, but I actually have a gripe about it, and I think my opinion is probably very different from a lot of other people's, but there was a drastic disparity in the power level of the decks passed out during this event. The deck I received was the Onyxia deck from Commander Masters, which was a notoriously powerful set, and the deck was more powerful, synergistic, and strangely resilient than standard precons. During the games I played, I won because my opponent scooped out of saltiness at the previously noted disparity. To be fair, I don't blame them at all. I'd have been rather salty in their situation as well. The reason this was a problem wasn't just because it was stronger, but also because human nature can associate negative feelings with the perceived cause. So from a player's perspective, it wasn't just that the deck was stronger, but it created the perception that because I was the one playing it, that I was the problem. Now, maybe I'm projecting, because my opponents were all pretty good sports about it afterwards, but it did create a rather unfun resolution to the game since they all conceded. Mind you, I was arch enemy for almost the entire game 2 times in a row during this 6-9 event. So, this wraps up day 1, because we were starving. Which brings up the first pro tip that Joey from the EDHRecast provided on his video, link below in the description. Bring snacks and water. I severely underestimated the validity of this suggestion when I heard it, despite having literally brought snacks for the trip there. During the first day, I didn't have any in my backpack, and we were both starving. I'm not trying to say don't buy the convention food, but on several occasions, I found myself walking up to a food vendor, glancing at the prices, and being like, yeah, I don't actually think I'm that hungry yet. Which is why we left at 9 p.m. We'd been up since 3 in the morning, so we were both starving and tired, and there was no third win in sight. So again, bring snacks and water. Day 2 began at 10 a.m., and the first thing we did was, pack snacks and water. I can't express how relevant this is. Look, if you want to spend like $15 on a hot dog, more power to you. But I'll eat a protein bar or a Fig Newton or something. We arrived at the convention, and today I decided I wanted to complete my shopping list. I lost a lot of time because I thought I left my phone in the car, but it was actually in my backpack charging. Okay, yeah, I made a lot of dumb mistakes. But after that debacle was complete, I spent a whopping 28 minutes and 49 seconds in line where I purchased this adorable shirt. For someone new to the con, this is where I learned my next lesson. There's a real risk that the things you want to buy will sell out on the first day. However, if you're just looking for some memorabilia, you will save hours by just going shopping on day 2. During a conversation with one of the sales staff as I was checking out in the line, the first day the line was like 2 to 3 hours long, which means that I saved money in the form of time and I still got a ton of cool stuff. So, shop on day 2, not on day 1, unless what you want to buy might sell out really quick. It was still pretty early, so I thought, why not get a game in? After all, what is MagicCon without playing some Magic? We headed to the Command Zone area, which is what the convention titles the free play area. They had tables lined with tablecloth and color-coded to help people find the area they were looking for. I couldn't help but notice that the areas for ticketed events were empty a vast majority of the time, while the free play area was full a vast majority of the time. This leads me to believe that there could have reasonably been less space allocated for ticketed play, but this is an event that has the fundamental purpose of making money, so I understand the hesitancy on reducing the space allocated for people to spend money. This is ironically reminiscent of what Josh and Jimmy said from the Command Zone podcast about MagicCon last year, which is that there needed to be more space allocated for free play, or at least more events to pull people away from the free play areas. So we found a table that needed 2 players and sat down, and we got a game in. This game went rather unwell from a social standpoint, which leads me to a real PSA about what the people at MagicCon were like and the lessons that were learned. Firstly, attitude is one of the largest factors for determining how enjoyable a game is. So if you aren't having fun in a game, kindly excuse yourself. We are all here to have fun, and you aren't tethered to a table of misery. I know how difficult it can be to say, hey guys, I'm not really enjoying this game, it isn't what I was looking for, so I'm going to continue my quest to find that somewhere else. But don't call your opponents, especially complete strangers, profane names or disrespect them. Nobody wants to be berated during what should be a fun, engaging game. It's poor sportsmanship, it's very rude, it ruins the vibe, and it pushes people away, because who wants to play with someone who's going to create a toxic social environment? But I digress. That aside, there was a plethora of amazing people who were a blast to play games with. In fact, here are 2 of the most memorable and enjoyable decks that I played against. Firstly, a proxy Joda the Unifier deck, which was labeled Junie the Unifier as the commander, but it was all Doctor Who themed. I like this because the deck was focused more on the theme rather than winning, which obviously I love because, well, Doctor Who, and, weak knees for the idiosyncrasy. And secondly, Nero Wild Mage, but clones. This created a rather eccentric combination of, I don't know what's going to happen, but you probably do. I just like bubbles. The deck was focused more on copying the most powerful things, but in the most inconsistent way, which is kind of an enigma. After the games, we made our way upstairs to the artist booths because someone needed Hydra tokens. Okay, it was me. I needed Hydra tokens, which, after a long and arduous journey up the escalator and across the floor, I found my treasure. Created by the magnificent artist Andrea Radeck for the low cost of $20, I got 12 tokens, 5 of which I gave to my friend, and these are the ones that I kept. Now, skipping ahead to day 3, we weren't scheduled for any events, so it was mostly a relaxed day of exploring to find things that we may have missed out on. And boy am I glad that we did. You see, on the 2nd floor, there was something of an escape room-esque area, which wasn't obviously an event, where we got to solve some puzzles to help the characters escape from Duskmourn, and then also help Miss Bumbleflower finish her secret recipe to deter a Calamity Beast. And let me tell you, this was so much fun to participate in, and best of all, it was free. This event is where I found a new hobby, and one of, if not the best of the secret goodies, as the reward was based on your favorite color of Magic. Since I've accepted that I'm a red mage at heart, this beautiful pin was my prize. I probably would have just accepted that the pin was beautiful in the eyes of the beholder, but you were only allowed to go through this event once, which means you got 1 pin, period. Unless you were willing to trade and find someone willing to trade. We learned this because both me and my friend who got the blue pin got several offers to trade for our pins. We even had people offering to buy them with cash, which showed that there was a real demand for them. This actually leads into our final secret goodie, because I, now enamored with the idea of becoming a pin collector, decided I wanted to revisit Andrea's booth one more time. This is where I got this adorable dinosaur pin, which cemented my foot into the trading space. So naturally, I went down to the Pinfinity booth afterwards, where I found the last secret goodie. During this event, Pinfinity had an advertising promotion where they would rather you have their pins on display over anyone else's. So they allowed each person to trade in a pin to them in exchange for one of theirs, which is where I got this beautiful forest pin and this nickel bolas. I added up the cost of the tickets, events, food, parking, travel, and lodging, which totaled somewhere in the realm of $1,000 per person for the whole trip, and if you don't blow money like I did, probably less. So, from start to finish, the lessons that I learned were as follows. Get your tickets early. Plan your ticketed events around the panels and shows you want to see, because they aren't going to plan around you. Bring snacks and water. Shop on day 2 unless you're concerned the thing you want is going to sell out on day 1. Be respectful towards the people around you. Don't be afraid to excuse yourself if you aren't having a good time. Don't forget where you left your phone. Investigate things that aren't apparent, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Prepare yourself to activate your badge by knowing your passwords or having your tickets ready before you get there. And lastly, relax. Have fun. It's a convention. We're all here to have fun. Anyway, thank you for sticking around this long. If you have any suggestions or comments about the event that you experienced, let me know.